Few Goldilock Bears podcast with Vincent Cloud.
John Nemitz.
And David Lauer.
And this is the show where we talk about loves and hates and indifferences, except not. This is a special
Record
fill-in
scratch.
episode. Yeah, wiki, man. This is Oops, all Deja Views. Typically, we start off an episode and we have one Deja Vu and it lasts like 5 minutes or whatever, but this is chock full of oopsie daisies, oopsie Deja Fusies. So let's get started. John, start us off.
All right. Should I do the one that I sent to you guys first?
Sure. I don't
right.
think I read that. Sorry.
Oh, well, this will be a nice surprise for you.
Right.
So we were talking about accents and stuff before, and we were joking about how, like you don't want like a doctor who's from with a Southern accent because they sound kind of stupid. And there was this research group, which like I do not put any actual weight in this research. I have no idea if it was done well or not, but I thought it was funny. So they analyzed average IQ, graduation rates, percentage of the population with low literacy rates, average SAT scores, and high school diploma or GDP per capita. And they use all those factors to rank all the different schools, or sorry, all the different states. And the top three states in America are New Hampshire, Minnesota, and Wyoming. And the bottom three are New Mexico, Texas, and Mississippi. So I'm not going to state any conclusions from this, but those bottom three states do have something in common geographically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what was that? New Hampshire, you said, in the top three, right?
Yep. Yeah, New Hampshire was number one.
East Coast.
And then
Yeah.
my proud adopted state of Minnesota, number two, and then Wyoming, number three.
What's Wyoming really? Are they kind of like, Western yeehaw or no?
That's how I think of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
their license plate is like a cowboy or like a rodeo rider.
And they're
Sure.
like one of the least densely populated states.
Yeah. I don't like this kind of research. I think it's very, very easy to poke holes in it and
for
to
sure.
draw very bad conclusions from it because you can look at it and be like, well, the top three states are probably like the population is probably not racially diverse at all. It's like three of the whitest states. And then all the southern ones are a lot more mixed culture and mixed race. And that what goes along with that is just like the income disparage or the income inequality, where the quote unquote like not as smart states are also a lot more poor, and they don't have access to like as good an education. The school systems are not that great, for a variety of reasons. And like obviously if you're a kid and your parents are poor and maybe you only have like a single parent and they're working all day, you're not gonna, and they're not there to help you with your homework, you're not gonna get a good test scores, and it's the kind of cycle just continues. So I don't like these kind of ones where they try and just break everyone up into states because all every state is different, and I think I don't know, it's just it puts everybody in the categories, and I don't feel like that's right either.
Way
Yeah.
to take hard, cold reality and suck all the fun out of bashing other states.
I don't know, because I just noticed I'm like everything that's like supposed to be like the smartest ones, I'm like they're all like up north, and it's like it's the same thing that people do when they're like, well, look at what countries have like the least amount of crime. It's like Norway and Sweden, and like that's because nobody lives there, and it's like super like there's no population, so it's like you can't really equate Norway to America Just like you can't really equate Wyoming to Texas or Florida or Maryland or New York. Like they're all like different sizes. Cities are totally different. Some places have lots of large cities. Some like Wyoming has like Billings is the largest city, and it's like tiny. Like it's the smallest big city ever.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I do the one thing that a state can control is, how much they spend on public education. As far as like what is actually a factor that they looked at in this study. Um, but yeah, like other than that, like most of those factors, you can't actually blame anything on the state, like the stuff you're bringing up for sure.
Uh, yeah, interesting article and stuff like that. I was just hoping we were going to be doing more accents. That's what I was waiting for. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to add than before. Like I mean, I think I was the one that brought up like, oh, when I want to portray ignorance, I do the Southern accent and stuff like that. But Matlock was on the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, Southern lawyer.
I may just be a unsophisticated country lawyer, but
The giant bird in Futurama. Yeah. Dang it. Yeah, new Deja Few. Go ahead, Dave.
Vince, you had a topic in the past about amusement parks, didn't you?
Yeah.
You said you're indifferent to them,
Yes.
I think. Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, I went to Oklahoma City and I went to Hurricane Harbor, which is like a Six Flags like water park. Um, and like kind of made like a trip out of it, like got a hotel that was right next to it and um but so like with Hurricane Harbor, this place, like I grew up in Wisconsin and I went to the Wisconsin Dells, which has like Noah's Ark and Mount Olympus, and they had like Family Land and Riverview Water Park and Timber Falls and all. They have a million different water parks in Wisconsin Dells. And that's what I grew up on as a kid. And I didn't realize like how good I had it because I go to a water park in Oklahoma City and like in my head, I'm like, it's gonna be great. It's so much hotter here. It's like 95 and sunny. I'm like, you guys gotta have insanely good water parks, because you gotta beat the heat somehow, just go into the wave pool. I mean, this place, it was not good. Like, it was fine, but there were so many things that were missing that were like, these are simple, super easy improvements. And basically, they just didn't have enough inner tubes. If you went to a slide, you need an inner tube to ride down the slide. But they're like, well, we only got like 15 tubes and there's steps all the way up to the top of the slide, but no one's even able to get in that line because we're all waiting at the bottom for someone to come out of the slide. And then we beg them like, please, can I have your tube? Are you done riding the ride? Or sometimes they're like, nope, I'm going to keep my tube and I'm going to ride again.
You can do that?
And like, yeah. So like I'm like, this can't be the right system. So I'm like, I swear, when we came in, there was a desk there and it was like it said rentals. And I'm like, you don't need to rent a locker. They have a kiosk where it's all digital. There's not a person. I'm like, I'm gonna go to that desk. I bet you can rent one of these inner tubes. And I'm like, I'll pay $30. I don't care. I'm like, I need my own inner tube that I can carry around this water park. And they're like, no, we don't rent out any inner tubes. And I'm like, but some of the tubes literally say rental on the side, but they're not rental. They're just everywhere. But they didn't have inner tubes in the wave pool, which in Wisconsin Dells at Noah's Ark, you can just sit in your tube in the wave pool and you're just having fun. You're just like, and the lazy river, half of the people in the lazy river are literally swimming or walking. I'm like, that defeats the purpose of the lazy river. You're supposed to just be laying in the tube. But they didn't have enough tubes anywhere. It was so stupid.
That's like fast zombies. Like, no, that's not what a zombie does. You lazily float.
All right, so this horrible experience aside, I keep thinking like, going to Noah's Ark was one of my best memories as a child. Like, would me as an almost 40-year-old man going to Noah's Ark be a good idea? Yes or no?
Yeah,
That's a question for the group here.
Well, yeah,
would
I was gonna ask you, Dave, like, had you gone to the proper way to do it up north, do you think you would have had a better time?
Yeah, because I went to Noah's Ark like I think it was 2019, so it was probably
Oh,
5 years ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
But it was way better. Like there was super long lines. It was the same thing where like if you get there at like 10:30 in the morning when they open, you can kind of go on any ride you want and it's great. But by the time it's like noon, like everybody's packed in there. There's hundreds of people, and then every line you got to wait 45 minutes to an hour. And like we went to some like slides and we're like standing at the bottom and we're like looking up all these like wooden steps that are like dripping water. And I'm like, do I really want to stand in this line or just like sit in our lawn chair with the umbrella and read my book? I'm like, oh, let's just kind of go sit by the wave pool. Like that way you can go in the water if you want, walk back out. I don't want to stand in lines. But I mean, so like there's inherently bad stuff about them, but the one in Oklahoma City was really bad compared to like Noah's Ark.
I think since neither of you have kids, yeah, you're gonna experience that way better than the dads or the moms, you know. I would have to imagine, because that's where you're allowed to be a kid again and stuff like that, you know. You get to stand in line and shit like that. So yeah, I wouldn't mind going again, although I gotta lose some fucking weight. I will look like a dad. They're like, sir, where are your children? We've watched you for hours now, and you seem to be ignoring your children. I'm like, I don't have any kids. God damn it.
I was gonna say to John, I was like, you will enjoy it if you enjoy people watching. Just
Oh,
like
yeah.
because Vince, like you may think like, oh, I don't want to like walk around without a shirt on. There are so many like weird shaped people that like they need to lose hundreds of pounds, but they have no shame. They're like, whatever, I don't care. And they're just walking around flaunting it. Like no matter like how like ugly we think we are, there's people out there that are way uglier. And you're like, yeah, I guess you realize that you just blend into the crowd and you're like, oh, nobody's even gonna look at me. They're like, I'm nothing compared to, a dozen other people that are within like 50 feet of me.
All right. All right. Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Next
Let's go. Road
podcast
trip.
recorded
Oh my
at
God.
Noah's Ark.
Podcast live from inside an amusement park. I don't think that's allowed though, right?
Probably not.
Do you get to bring your cell phones and shit?
Still fun.
So
That was the one good thing about this place. You could bring in a giant cooler. It would be super easy to bring in your own booze.
Whoa,
Like if I was an
yeah.
alcoholic, it would be super easy. You could bring like a giant like cooler with like drinks and food. Like we brought sandwiches and chips and like Gatorades. I'm like, I could have easily spiked my Gatorade and it would have just been like, all right, let's have a party.
Pedialites.
All right, Deja challenge. All right, I'll go here.
Deja next.
I think around episode 3, the MCU was brought up. Something fucking crazy happened just the other day. So at Comic-Con or something, some sort of con, they were bringing out a bunch of people for Marvel and for Avengers movie Doomsday, and walks in the masked Doctor Doom, the villain of Fantastic Four, and he takes off his mask, and it's Robert Downey Jr. So yeah, what do you guys think?
So the implication being he's going to play that character in an upcoming movie?
Yes. He's going to play the main bad guy in an Avengers movie, which he's already been in as the key good guy, you know? Yeah.
I
Dave,
mean, Mike Myers did it.
That's a good point.
Well, not-
I like where your head's at.
someone made an
Wait,
amazing reference to Mick Foley, or someone, coming up with another person,
yeah,
yeah,
another
character.
gimmick.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave?
Remember in Goldmember, like the opening scene where like Austin Powers was played by Tom Cruise, and then like Dr. Evil was, I think it was like Kevin Spacey.
Oh my
Then
God.
Danny DeVito was Mini Me.
Yes.
Like, so I feel like if Robert Downey Jr. is gonna be the bad guy, he's got to get someone else to replace him as Iron Man, and it's got to be like someone like, I don't know, Ryan Gosling or something. We're like, oh shit, like I can't
Wow.
believe they got that guy.
That's true. I don't know
Yeah.
who the superheroes are going to be, but okay. So I brought this up in my ability to remember faces, where it throws me off when Jessica Walter plays different characters in Murder She Wrote. She was killed, she was a suspect, she was innocent. This is super fucking weird to have the face of the MCU now turn heel in a way. It's a totally different character, but that's fucking crazy. And I heard he's getting paid $100 million for this movie. He's an athlete.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you
Um,
guys gonna be able to separate those two, or do you not? I mean, I don't even know if you guys care about those movies. So yeah.
having never watched a movie with Iron Man in it, I think
Really?
I'll handle it okay. But
Oh,
um, I haven't watched zero MCU movies, but none of the mainline ones for whatever reason. But I feel like I would find it very distracting. Like, like in Star Wars, if like Mark Hamill showed up as like some Sith Lord who isn't, Luke Skywalker turned evil, right? He's just like
right.
some other guy. Like, yeah, it's super weird.
Well, I would say I would recommend that first Iron Man movie. That was really good. That was his comeback, you know. Okay, so the other thing though that caught in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't so Doctor Doom's the villain, and the whole concept is that he wears that mask to hide his deformity. And I only know this because of Kevin Smith. But because the irony is that once he takes it off in some comic, and he's like beautiful looking, but he's got like this little scar, like you could barely notice it, but he's so vain that he's like, oh no, I'm deformed and now I'm going to be evil and shit like that. So will RDA keep his helmet on like the Mandalorian? You know what I mean?
He's got body dysmorphia. He's like, oh no, keep the mask on. I'm hideous.
Yeah,
So
maybe
yeah.
this will be the last time that we see him.
Oh
And
my
that's why
God.
he had to let everybody know that that's who he was.
And like,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
stopping them from just putting a stunt double in the suit and then having him do the voiceover?
Well, that's
Like,
kind of like V for Vendetta, right? Like, wasn't that something similar? Like, I don't remember if Agent Smith was physically V or he just did the voice. I don't remember anymore.
I'm not sure because it could totally. It's like Darth Vader. Like the guy in the suit doesn't have to be
Yeah.
James Earl Jones. It can
Yeah.
be, some tall British guy with a weird voice.
Well, with all that being said, I'm pretty sure he'll take the mask off at all the time. You know?
They'll have like the scene where like Darth Vader has his helmet off and then it's like coming back on and clamps on to him. And they'll be like, okay,
And it's just a
that's
funny thing with all these superhero movies is like, let's take our most beautiful actors and cover their faces.
Oh, is RDA okay? So this for me, I thought
RDJ.
RDJ, whatever. Oh, I'm thinking Rafael dos Anjos, sorry, from the UFC. Is RDJ going through a bit of a midlife crisis because his character died in Endgame, and then he goes on to win the Oscar playing a bad guy. Now is he like, now I know how to play bad guys. I'm gonna come back, get paid $100 million, even though it doesn't make any sense, canon wise. The same fucking actor. So I don't know. I was like, is that a midlife crisis?
We gotta stop giving these actors Oscars because they just keep like making weird decisions afterwards.
Well, yeah, now that he got an Oscar, he's just like, well, now I just got to go for the money grab. And like, I don't really understand like why they would choose him for that role because he's already Iron Man. Like, I feel like I don't know, but we don't know how these negotiations like went. Like, maybe they offered it to like five other big name actors and it all was turned down. And then they're like, well, we could do this. It might be cool. And they're like, okay. And they just settled for that. Maybe they tried for Tom Hanks or Brad Pitt or I don't know.
Oh shit, Brad Pitt. I wonder if he would keep his helmet on the whole time. I don't know.
Nah, he'd have his flowing hair out there.
Well,
Hideous.
he once played a masked person. Like his character was like allergic to the sun. That'd be a terrible allergy. Holy shit. Anyways, Deja
All right,
challenge.
so I'm gonna ignore all of everything Dave was saying before, and I'm gonna revert back to my state pride and talk about a news article I read where they've sent the new Minnesota flag into space.
Okay. Like what do you mean? Like like on a Voyager type of
rocket
thing?
ship.
Is
I
it
don't
in a
even.
care package to those astronauts that are like
Yeah, it's
stuck in
like you,
space?
we got you some cookies, some reading material, and this Minnesota state flag.
Yeah, you can hang it on your wall.
So that's what it's gonna do, like just to go to astronauts, or are they sending it to
No,
like
no, no.
a planet?
It's literally just the thing of like, wouldn't it be cool if this thing was in space? All right, let's collect things that we want to have been in space and put them into space.
So like
Like,
a time
there's no
capsule?
actual purpose for it.
Oh shit.
So like basically like SpaceX is like, hey, we have like a compartment here that can fit like 5,000 pounds worth of stuff. If you want to rent out a little PO box and stick
Yeah,
some stuff in here, we'll send it to outer space.
yeah, exactly. And so like I could say like, oh, I wrote a poem that's in space, or like that kind of stuff.
But John, you don't know anything about poetry.
I know I'm indifferent to it.
But you might love it if it's in outer space.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's so weird. Like, do you know what else they sent into space?
Well, so I'm looking at this article here and it's ambiguous, okay? So it talks about it was a payload carrying nanofabricated materials produced at the University of Minnesota Nano Center classroom. But then it says like it was sent up with flags and research materials. And like then there was like research sensors and stuff like thermometers and that kind of stuff. So like I'm I'm not sure if the flag was made out of a nanomaterial and they're like, oh, let's also make it in the design of the flag, but they're actually testing the material. But it just says sent up with flags and research materials. So I'm not exactly clear on that.
Yeah, and like why does Minnesota did Wisconsin get to send our old ass flag?
Well, this was done by University of Minnesota researchers, so
All right.
Yeah, that's
they had a
top of the
bias.
line.
Yeah.
Wisconsin, they're probably in the 30s.
Wisconsin was top 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for drinking.
Oh.
Actually, have you seen that map of United States counties based on like per capita alcohol drinking? And Wisconsin just blows like the rest of the country out of the water.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was fake. I was like, there's no way this is real. But it was like, by all accounts, it seems like it's real. Because
I'll
like
drink
even
to
as a
that.
Wisconsinite, like you look at like you're like, okay, yeah, like Madison or like Dane County, which is Madison, you're like checks out. You're like Green Bay checks out. And then it's like Chippewa, Eau Claire. You're like, oh, that checks out.
Yeah, it's like anytime you name the name of a place, you're like, yep, checks out.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, there's a lot of drunks in that. You're like Chippewa, yeah, for sure. There's a lot of drunks up there.
Okay, yeah, not another one. Another one. Whoever's next.
Not me. I
I
just
think
went.
I'm next.
If you're next and you know it, do a topic.
Oh yeah. We were talking about it, I guess, last time, and I totally forgot about it. Was Dopplegangers. I went to Rockfest, and there's like tens of thousands of people. There's like 30,000 people around there. And you start to see some doppelgangers because you're like, oh, is that so and so? And it's usually not. It's not the person you thought it was. Um, but it reminded me because I saw somebody, Vince, you might remember him, Garrett Georgeson, I think his
Yeah,
name is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he used to live like with Josh and our friends Josh and Jimmy. Um, and like I saw him and I was like, oh, so we got to catch up a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I'm like, dude, I saw you like last year. And he was like confused and he was like, I don't think you did. And I'm like, no, 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 trust me. I'm like, I saw you, but the Oklahoma version of you. I'm like, I was in Lowe's and I was looking at pressure washers, and this guy came up to me and he started talking to me. And I'm like, he looked just like Garrett. He looked like him. He had like a beard. He had like his face was a little different, but his voice was like spot on.
Ooh, we didn't even talk
Caught,
about voice
yeah,
doppelgangers.
Oh, save
yeah.
it.
Like
Or
the
include it
voice
now.
and the mannerisms were like all there. And then he was constantly talking about like his vehicle and his truck and like working on it. And I'm like, that's exactly what Garrett always talks about, like working on his truck or something broke with it. Cause like him and Josh, they always like are working on their vehicles and trying to fix stuff. And they're just like having conversations about it. And I don't know. I had this like 10 or 15-minute conversation with this stranger at Lowe's. But the only reason I stuck around is because I'm like, you totally reminded me of Garrett the entire time. And it
He's like,
was,
sir, please leave. We have run out of things to talk about.
and it was funny because I actually spent more time talking to that guy at Lowe's who I didn't know than I did with actually Garrett when I met him. I probably only talked to Garrett for like 2 or 3 minutes, but I talked to the guy at Lowe's for 15. It's like, yeah, I had my fill last year, Garrett. Sorry. I'm the new you.
That's funny. Well, John, you brought it up, voice similarities. There was this video on YouTube, this guy playing a board game with people, and I just put it on while I was like doing my own thing, working on my own board game, and I was like, that that's me talking, and he sounds just like me, my stupid nasally mumbly voice, and just his cadence was very similar as well. And I was like, after a while, I'm like, I can't stand this. You know, not that, I was like, oh no, my poor fans. This is what I put them
I
through.
was gonna say, are you a fan of this show?
Well, he wasn't. He was talking about something. I don't know, but it was weird. It was very much like Seinfeld. George Costanza listens to that self-help book or whatever audiobook, and it sounds just like Jason Alexander. Yeah,
I
he's
can't
like, I
take
can't
advice
listen.
for
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. Oh,
This
man.
actually triggered a memory. Last summer, I was at a cafe I go to, and I saw someone who just looked exactly like one of the guys that I go camping with. But I'm like, just a little bit off. And I'm like, no, that's got to be him. Like, yeah, I'm just going back and forth in my mind. It's that him. So I just like go up next to him, but out of eyesight of him, and start saying the name of my buddy. Like, and he like never looks. So I'm like, all right, that must not be him.
It's a good little
Which
test.
I don't know why like I was so embarrassed though. It was like if it wasn't him, it's not like I'm ever gonna see the guy again. You know what I mean? But I did ask like, hey, do you ever go to this cafe? And he's like, no. I'm like, okay.
Well, I guess that's the thing. Like it doesn't we it's worse for the person making the mistake than the person being mistaken for the other person. If anything, it feels like a compliment if it happens to you. You're like, oh, no, no, I'm not your son,
Wow,
ma'am.
someone who looks like me could have a friend? That's really cool.
She was a mother. Someone like me.
Um, yeah, I have had people come up to me like, "Hey, are you Phil?" I'm like, "No."
Bill
One thing
Johnson.
that one thing that was funny was not even doppelganger related, but anti-doppelganger, I guess. My wife and I were at the co-op grocery store, and she thought I was like following her. So she's just like kind of talking to the person behind her, thinking it's me. And it's like this nice woman in her 50s, and she's like, my wife looks back and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were my husband." And then I walk over and she's like, "You think I look like him?"
Oh man, so this I don't know. See, it usually comes off more racist, but like when my friends are like, "Hey, doesn't he just look like this person?" And the other person will like, "No, you're completely wrong." And then they'll be like, "No," and they'll look it up, and it's some Asian dude. You know, it's like I am not him. And the one person's like, "I told you he's not him," or whatever. Yeah, it's so bizarre. New. Oh, we gotta come up with a good way to switch these things. We have no. Do we just
Deja
do
new.
deja new? All right, who's got a deja new? I'll go actually. I think
I think
it's
it's
me.
deja you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the Olympics, Dave, you were indifferent to them. Uh,
Yes.
this weekend I was watching skateboarding. I guess this is only the second year, and it was fine. Um, it was these it was these girls doing skateboard tricks and stuff like that. And I don't know too much about skateboarding, but what struck me was the age, 14 years old. And this girl, like, she needs to land this thing to get something significant, possibly bronze or something. And she messes up and she breaks down. She's so devastated by this. And it made me think about child actors. It's like this is way too high stakes for such a young person. And that's what I was thinking. Turns out the youngest person to win an Olympic medal was a 10-year-old.
For what?
What?
Oh God, did I write it down? Uh shit, no. Oh no, gymnasium. What the fuck?
Gymnastics.
Must have been gymnastics. Yeah, 10-year-old. And then on the other side, a 72-year-old won a medal in like skeet yeah, skeet shooting, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Skeet, skeet, skeet. Yeah. So I don't know. I had no idea about the ages, guys. That's fucked up. I think it's too young, personally.
Yeah, but even if they're not competing at that age, like they've been training since they were 6. You know what I mean? Like if you want to be an Olympic level athlete, like your parents are making some serious decisions for you at a really young age.
Well, yeah,
Um,
that's the other thing I don't like about it, but go on.
yeah. Um, yeah, like we were just talking about this too, watching the Olympics, um, like if you've trained your entire life to be an Olympic athlete, and like then let's say you're good enough to get into the Olympics, but you're not good enough to get a medal. So like you've dedicated your entire life to training for this thing, but didn't happen to perform at a level that you at least get like sponsorships and stuff out of it for the rest of your life. And you haven't like really had a time to develop any other um, discernible skills. So then maybe if you're charismatic enough to be like an announcer or a commentator or something like that, like you can go down that track, but it's tough. And like um my wife was talking about Sunny or Suni, the gymnast from St. Paul here, how she was like trying to go back to college after the Olympics last time, but like just people were weird and like stalkerish to her. So like she just kind of like ended up, oh, I'm only going to do like online classes, and because people were being weird to her. And like, so she's like trying to also have like a normal life, but just struggling to do it because of like the notoriety that she got from competing.
Dang.
Yeah, I
Dave, how
was
do you feel about
watching
the age?
um I was watching, my wife wanted to watch a lot of the gymnastics stuff. And yeah, there was, I think the youngest was like 15 or something that I saw, but I don't know, there might be like 14 or 15 years old, which is, yeah, it's so incredibly young. And it's like, well, yeah, they can spin around and like do stuff because it's like they're like tiny human beings.
Your
They weigh
bones
like
haven't hardened
nine.
yet.
Yeah, they're like 90 pounds, like gravity like barely has an effect on them, so they can like spin around a million times. And like I was just like in my head, I'm like, if I had like the body of like a 90-year-old or like a 90-pound, like 15-year-old, I'm pretty sure I could do all that stuff too if I trained. But I'm like, unfortunately, the body that I'm in is not capable of any of this stuff. But I'm like, I feel like maybe I could do it, but I don't know. Um, and like, but I just keep thinking about the stuff that you guys are saying with like the parents and the coaches of like they're kind of pushing them to do this, from such an early age where it's like they don't really have like a choice to do it. They just happen to be so talented and gifted, and they're putting in all this time, rather than they're probably doing it for 60, 80 hours a week, or who knows, 100 hours a week. Um, so yeah, it's a little weird because it's like when they're emotional and upset that they did bad, it's like they didn't even like want this. They're just doing this because this is what they've been told that they need to do and they want to do. So it's like, yeah, they're super invested in it for sure, but there's also just that element that like it wasn't like totally like their idea.
Yeah, shit. Yeah, I think there should be an age limit, but but like you said, John, they're training young anyways, so maybe it's better to be devastated when you're 14 so that you're like, all right, mom, dad, I'm doing something else. I don't know.
On the lighter side, there's been some events that are deja vus, like um, badminton and kayaking. Have you guys watched those?
No, no.
No.
Is there a schedule that I could look up? Because they're like the one complaint I had was like this is confusing. They'll show bits of gymnastics and then they'll show bits of this other thing, but then they'll cut to something else. It's like when is all this taking place? It's fucking weird.
Yeah, I'm sure there is a schedule, but yeah, we're just kind of taking it as they give it to us. But we have one of those like streaming cable type things, and there's a thing you can do where you just like go to this channel and they have like four different ones on the screen, and then you just move your cursor to whatever you want audio for, and you can just kind of watch the other ones silently. So that's been kind of fun.
It's cool.
The kayaking, or did they call it canoeing, is really weird. Like it's in this like artificial thing with like these jets of water like propelling through. So it's like rapids, and then you're like slaloming between these flags, like somehow steering yourself like with enough control with the paddles. Like it's insane.
That sounds boring.
Yeah, it sounds really weird. I was looking up the 2028 Olympics that are going to be in LA, but then they were saying that like part of the events will take place in Oklahoma City. Because I like we're looking up like, oh, maybe we should go to the Olympics the next time they're close. And the stuff in Oklahoma City is they're going to have softball games, but then they're also going to have like the slalom canoes and
Okay,
like the
yeah.
artificial tanks because apparently they have one of those already in Oklahoma City and they're going to use that for the 2028 games. And I haven't even watched it yet, but I just like reading it. I'm like, okay, that I don't know that I want to like travel and deal with the traffic just to watch that or softball for that matter. I'm like, eh.
What's the what's the Tour de Francia, right? Bicycling?
Hmm.
Why
Yeah.
don't you just put them on some exercise bikes in that case? That sounds so boring for the athlete and for the judges and everything. Like I am totally opposed to this fucking kayaking thing being in that little pool. That's so weird. Ugh.
Brought to you by
I
Peloton.
mean, it'd be more like if you had a bicycle on a treadmill than being on an exercise bike.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
well,
still like super lame, but
yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
but yeah, different.
That's so odd because can you imagine that? Because I would imagine how you train is going down a river and paddling and dealing with the elements. And then all of a sudden it's just you're in one space and oh my God, that's so bizarre. No, thank you. I was thinking about going for the gold in about 4 years, but no way.
And then another sport that I had heard about, but didn't happen to ever catch watching it until this year is handball. And like to describe it, so like think of like football as in soccer, but then think, okay, what would the handball version of that be? And it just looks super dumb and weird watching it. So it's like kind of like basketball where you have to dribble the ball sometimes, but like it's clearly like they don't have to dribble it as much as you do in basketball. And then what if instead of like, and the ball is much smaller, like maybe a little bigger than a softball for playing softball. And there's like a hockey type net almost, and someone's standing in front of it. And you just gotta like bounce the ball around, pass the ball, and then throw it past the guy in the net. Like it just looks really weird and not cool, but it would probably be fun to play, I bet. But
So
I was not
like
impressed
in
as
my
an
head,
adult.
I'm thinking of like lacrosse, but like
Yeah, it's
without
almost like
the
lacrosse,
nets,
but
without the
without the
sticks.
sticks. Yeah. And then play it on a surface that you can, bounce the ball on.
When you first said handball, I was thinking like, oh, it's gonna be like pickleball, but without a paddle.
Oh,
Oh
shit.
yeah, watch some Olympic level tennis or table tennis.
Ooh,
I was
wait,
watching.
wait. Ping pong or isn't that
Ping pong,
is
yeah.
yeah, okay. Sorry. I don't know why. I'm like ping pong, please.
I was
And
watching some
then,
fencing.
oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch this year. Was it cool?
I don't know. I just don't like they're all like in their beehive suit. So like you can't see the person or like their face. And like I get you have to protect their face, but like everyone's just in a white suit. So it's just like I don't know. It's like at least with like the gymnastics, their uniforms are like kind of like a variation of like their country's flag. in some way, and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
so they each like have their own uniform, but like in fencing, I'm like, they're just in a white suit. Like, there's Italy versus France, but they're just wearing the same white uniform. I'm like, at least like have like a weird jersey or put your flag on the back of it or something.
For sure.
Was that fencing where they have like the chain attached to their backs or something? Like,
Yeah.
what's that about?
Yeah.
I don't know. Fencing is so bizar. And then
I
did you
feel like it's just in case they get really angry at the other person and start like trying to stab them, that somebody's back there and just reels them in.
Yeah, and when I watched, I don't know, probably 4 years ago, the equipment was so faulty. Like, yeah, there's because there's sensors on the suits, but sometimes they don't work, and it's always so deflating when their swords are bent. So they gotta like, it's like, no, they're not swords. I want them to be swords, but you're not fooling anyone when it's all bent and they just adjust it like as a fucking car antenna or something, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really like the fencing because you're like on this weird like platform where it's just you can go forward and backwards. There's no left or right movement. I feel like they should be in like a circular thing where they could like go left or right, and it would add like another dimension to it rather than just forward and backwards. Because there's just not enough they can do. Like one person's charging forward and the other person's kind of like going backwards, and it's I don't know.
Yeah. Soul Calibur knew about this. They could move in three
Yes.
dimensions.
Oh my gosh, that's a perfect reference.
Oh man. Uh another one?
One more.
One more?
Equestrian, the horse stuff.
Horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like horses just like dancing around. Like it's not even like horses being super athletic. Like I don't get that one at all. Like that's that seems like state fair shit to me. You know what I mean?
uh no blue ribbon, but you get a fucking big ass medal, sponsors, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, why aren't the horses racing like, the Belmont Stakes?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're pretty good at running, I hear.
I'll take the Greyhound. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, one more. Few. Do we got another one?
I played some trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vince, you love trivia. I
Yeah,
bought
yeah.
a it was like $20 or something on Amazon. It's called the History Channel trivia game, and it's like the super simplest, easy like rules of a trivia game where it's kind of like Trivial Pursuit, I think. But there's like six different categories. You have sports and recreation, science and technology, arts and literature, and so on and so forth. There's a couple other ones. And you have to it's like six questions on there. But I was playing it with buddy James, and it was just the two of us, but like we had hell of a lot of fun just playing trivia. Because like you're reading the question, and as you're reading the person the question, you have a pretty good idea whether they're gonna know it or not, you know? But then sometimes you think they're gonna know it and they don't. I don't know. I don't know. It's just like simple trivia. It
Anything
was
can
just
happen.
great. Yeah. Especially, if it's like it's not multiple choice, so you can't, you got to either know it or you don't. Or sometimes you know it and it's like, well, you got half of it right, but it's like be more specific. But
Yeah.
we
And
had a
then
lot of fun playing trivia.
you're like, judges? And you're like, no, I'm the judge. You didn't get it.
Even the SATs have multiple choice, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, Wait a minute, History Channel. Hasn't the History Channel lost some credibility over the years?
You might say
Like
that.
aliens and shit like
It's just
that.
aliens and Bigfoot and ghost hunters. They found their target audience and they're just like, watch another episode of Pawn Stars.
Oh God. Yeah. Um, Yeah, a customer walks into Pawn Stars and asks, "Can I get $75 for it?" Does he say A, of course, B, I'll actually give you more money, or is it C, I can't do that?
Oh, it's probably going to be D. I'm not sure how much that's worth, but I know a guy. Is it okay if I bring an expert and he'll take a look at it?
That's great. Um, that's show, I say. Yeah, that was the end of Oops, I crap my
Yay.
pants. uh,
No.
like, subscribe, comment if you're on YouTube. Go to a few goldilockbears.com. And you know what? Fucking share this shit. Tell a friend. Say, hey, you want to hear three assholes talk about things that they love and hate are indifferent to, even though they misuse that word a lot. Check it out. I was Vincent Cloud.
You're like, hey, do you want to hear some guys who seriously misunderstood a simple child story and did not take the meaning of it at all and riffed on the name? I'm John Emmett.
All right, I can't follow that. This is DJ Lauer.